to a number of websites showing a number of paintings and renderings created by various artists at various times. This is a painting by Federico Bartolini. It is called Portrait of an Arab Woman. Here's another. It is called, which is also by Federico Bartolini. It is called Portrait of an Arab Man. Both obviously black. Here's another painting. It's a famous painting. It is called Portrait of an Arab Boy. Portrait of an Arab Boy. And that is by Frederick Goodall. Here's another. It is called Portrait of an Arab. The artist is Émile Jean Horace Vernet. Portrait of an Arab. Obviously, a black man. Here's another. Arab, according to the artist. Obviously black. It's an Arab fighter. Here's another. The artist is unknown, but most importantly, it comes from the same period. Most of this is what we call Orientalist artwork, and most of it was done in the 18th century or before. And just to show you how desperate and people can be and how interested they are in not knowing the truth, I've actually had Eurocentrists come on my web pages with some of these images and basically say that those paintings were made by Afrocentric artists recently. They have no clue. They have no idea what they're talking about. They've done no credible research or study on any of this. And you can very easily research any of this and research the biography of the artists and the era and the time that these very famous and expensive paintings were done, and realize how stupid you sound when you say that these are recent works by Afrocentric artists. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is called Interest of Muhammad II into Constantinople. Okay? And the artist is Benjamin John Joseph Constant. Arabian Nights painting. They're referred to as the Arabian Nights. Take a good look. Obviously black. Here's another one. It is by Alexander Cabanel. It is called Portrait of an Arab. Portrait of an Arab. Here's another. It is called Portrait of an Arab Man. It is by Aloysius O. Kelly. Portrait of an Arab Man. These are all different websites, by the way. Different artists, different time period. They're all consistent. Here's another one. Arab Slave Market has an estimated value of $6,000 to $8,000 for this painting. Arab Slave Market. And the blackest Arab of all is who they have on the forefront. This black man here. He's one of the Arabs that's at the slave market. Okay? So there you have a black slave, and there you have a white slave. She may be mulatto. I'm sure that the Eurocentrists would love to say she's not white, that she is mulatto. She looks mulatto to me. But there were multitudes of whites who were enslaved, and that's just a commonly known fact. And they were enslaved by the Arabs, and as we're showing, many of the Arabs were black. So yes, blacks enslaved whites, no question about that. This is called A Sleeping Arab Musician. This is by Emily Klaus, A Sleeping Arab Musician. This is by Giuseppe Signorini. It is called The Startled Arab. The Startled Arab. And this is by Galia Tornal, Tornal, and this is in the harem. So we have 3 slaves, 1 black, 2 white. These are the Arabs. Here we have 2 Arabs. And this is the man we saw in the beginning, Tipu Tip. Tipu Tip, also obviously black. Let's look at, there's another rendering of Tipu Tip. He is a notorious Arab slave trader. Go to Wikipedia, type in his name, Tipu Tip. There he is again. Tipu Tip, his real name was, I'm not going to read all that, it's a very long name. He was famously known by the natives of East Africa as Tipu Tip after the sounds that his guns made, a notorious slave trader, plantation owner, and governor who worked for a succession of sultans of Zanzibar. He led many trading expeditions into Central Africa involving the slave trade and ivory trade. He constructed profitable trading posts that reached deep into Central Africa. He built himself a trading empire that he then translated into clove plantations on Zanzibar. Abdul Sharif reports that when he left for his 12 years of empire building on the mainland, he had no plantations of his own. However, by 1895, he had acquired 7 shambas, plantations, and 10,000 slaves. So it's absolutely true that many of the Arabs enslaved many blacks, but it's also true that many of the Arabs who enslaved those blacks were blacks themselves. And this is a classic example. He's a very famous Arabian slave trader. In fact, just to finalize the argument, we're going to look at a few more images of this man. This is actually a photograph. So there's no question about the fact that this Arab is a black man. And yes, this is what he's responsible for. Absolutely. When it comes to historical truth, there's no point in denying any aspect of it. And all this is telling us is that black Africans are guilty of the very same thing that Chinese, Japanese, certainly Europeans, and everyone else has been guilty of, and that is enslaving and in participating in the enslavement of people who were of their same race. They were not necessarily their own people. In fact, in many cases, the blacks who were captured or enslaved by other blacks, not only were they not their own people, but they were their enemies. They were their enemies. In many cases, rather than kill their enemies or hold them hostage as prisoners of war, they simply separated themselves from their enemies by selling them into slavery. So it accomplished 2 things. This enemy will not return to fight another day. We're going to separate this enemy and remove him far from us so he's no longer a threat. Also, we consider this the humane thing to do because now we don't have to kill this enemy of ours. And instead of having to incur an expense of keeping this enemy alive, we can simply sell this enemy, make a profit, and go on about our business. That was the mindset. Anyway, I think that's more than enough.